I can agree that Warner Brothers' decision to bring in James Gunn to help steer the ship when it comes to the DCEU was probably a good decision, but the way they went about it wasn't necessarily the right way, because since James Gunn announced that they're going to be rebooting the whole DCEU, pretty much every movie that they had since then was flopping at the box office. Now, I'm not necessarily blaming James Gunn 100% for this, because there was problems with the movies before he came into play, which is why they brought him in to begin with. But still, him saying that they're going to be basically retconning everything out of existence following Aquaman 2, because that was the last movie that was still kind of in the pipeline before he took over, wasn't necessarily the best move on their part, because basically fans just figured there's no reason to get invested if they're just going to be retconning everything out of existence. And from James Gunn's perspective, I can kind of understand it in that he wants to have a fresh start to everything, and that meant recasting. Well, come to find out, some of the people that they cast prior to James Gunn coming in are still going to reprise their roles for the future of the DCEU. So a lot of people were saying that they should bring back Henry Cavill as well, considering he was one of the more popular casting choices for the DCEU prior to James Gunn actually taking over. Fans of the DCEU were even hopeful when Henry Cavill made a cameo appearance at the end of Black Adam, because it made it feel like, oh, well, we heard that Henry Cavill's out and now he's back in this cameo, so maybe they're going to continue with him. And Henry Cavill himself even believed that that was the case until James Gunn officially came out and said, no, Henry Cavill's going to be out as Superman, and that really upset a lot of other fans. So a lot of movies following that did kind of flop, and I'm not necessarily saying this is the only reason why, but yeah, people were upset about the decision to get rid of Henry Cavill. But right now there's a glimmer of hope, because director Matthew Vaughn, who recently just worked with Henry Cavill in the movie Argylle, has said if he wanted to make a Superman movie, he would actually make a movie with Henry Cavill as Superman, or at least that's what his wish list is. Henry Cavill's new director wants to make a Superman reboot movie with him in a fresh DC universe. Matthew Vaughn wants to team up with Henry Cavill again, but this time having the actor play Superman in a different type of superhero movie apart from the DC universe. Now, this can actually fit with what James Gunn has planned for the DCEU, because he himself has even said there's going to be basically the DCEU movie where all the characters have like kind of that interlocking story that they build off of each other, similar to what we saw with the Marvel movies. But then there's going to be the other like more Elseworld type movies where you get the Matt Reeves Batman movie or the Joker movies, which are still a part of DC, but they're going to be their own standalone stories. And this is what Matthew Vaughn is talking about, bringing in Henry Cavill for a Superman movie that's in this area of the DCEU. While promoting his new movie Argylle, which co-stars Cavill, Vaughn was asked by Pro Bible's post-credit podcast if he would ever want to do a Superman Red Sun movie. Not only was Vaughn interested in tackling the Elseworld story, but he would love to have Cavill as his Superman. Just so we're clear, it's not like Matthew Vaughn has any insider knowledge when it comes to this sort of thing, because as far as I know, he's not slated to direct any DCEU movies, especially a Superman Red Sun movie. This is him just kind of riffing with people, talking about if he did get a chance to direct the Superman Red Sun movie, what he would actually like to do with it. And in his opinion, he would like to bring in Henry Cavill. But a lot of other people think that this could actually be a good idea if DC wanted to actually try to tackle this story, because it wouldn't really clash with what James Gunn is also trying to set up with the expanded DCEU movies. While there may not be any plans for Cavill to put on the suit anytime soon, an Elseworld movie would be an ideal option for him to play Superman again in any capacity. The idea of a Superman Red Sun movie would not only explore one of the biggest Elseworld comics, but wouldn't clash with anything Gunn is doing. This article goes on to talk about how this could be the catalyst for why we actually see Henry Cavill Superman face off against Dwayne Johnson's Black Adam, which was set up in the Black Adam movie back in 2022, but because they got rid of Henry Cavill, there's never going to be a payoff to that. But maybe they could actually do it with this Elseworld movie. Who knows? But personally, I like the idea about actually having more of these standalone Elseworld stories that aren't necessarily connected to the overall plot. I mean, these shared universe ideas are pretty fun, and I think they can work for a while, but we've seen with Marvel that they kind of lose their momentum after some time, and people, I think, get tired of having to catch up with everything, because the whole barrier to entry seems a little bit too daunting for the average moviegoer at this point, and I think more people are receptive to these standalone projects like a Superman Red Sun movie. And I think it also would be necessary to bring back Henry Cavill if you wanted to actually tell the Red Sun story, because you need to see the Superman that you're familiar with, but in a different setting than what he was actually normally in. For people who don't know, the Red Sun story is basically a what if scenario if Superman, instead of landing in a farm in Kansas, he lands in the Soviet Union and is raised to be basically a communist Superman sort of thing from the Cold War era. So yeah, you need to have a Superman that you're familiar with and then transport him to a different scenario and see how things play out in that sort of situation. Now it's possible if they were going to do this, they would just cast David Corenswet to play the Red Sun Superman, who's James Gunn's choice for replacing Henry Cavill in the DCEU. I personally think it would be a better idea to have Henry Cavill play the role, but I mean, I'm not the one making the calls. But again, this is just purely hypothetical because, like I said, it's not like they're having any plans for this. This is just Matthew Vaughn talking with a couple people about what he would do if he was directing this sort of movie. So we don't know if anything's going to happen in the future, but I think fans could be receptive to this, or at least I would be receptive if they wanted to try to make this story and have Henry Cavill play the role. But let me know what you think about all this in the comment section below. Would you actually like to see a Red Sun Superman movie? And if so, do you think they should bring in Henry Cavill and have Matthew Vaughn direct it? Because I'm curious what people have to say about this. But also, if you like this video, make sure you click that like button. And also, can you share the video out there and subscribe, because it really helps out the channel. Thank you.